When a reader opens the cover and flips past the obligatory nonsense hiding page 1, there is a very narrow space in time when the author is challenged to captivate the reader with the opening. From page 1 of today's short story, titled, The Invisible Hand of Fate. Chapter 1. Into the Cold. Lee glanced out the small window of the front door. Snow was being dusted in the air by a swirling northwest wind. She paused and watched it dance along the sidewalk. It reminded her of the finely ground powdered sugar she dusted on the holiday loaves she baked that morning. She lifted her keys from the antique coat rack Grandma had set by the front door for days like this many years ago. She paused, checked the small mirror in the center of the rack. She flicked her fingernail at the corner of her eyelash. It was a crisp reprimand for one lash which was out of line. She slid the tip of her looby under Kitty Cat's tummy, and issued a soft warning. "I'm already running late. You are not sneaking out, silly." She smiled at her furry friend who had not entertained any thoughts of such mischief. With 8 inches of new powder, chasing a cat into the night was the last thing Lee needed. She pushed the door open, hit the light switch with her elbow and waved at the Uber in front of her house. She noticed a fresh glaze of ice on the sidewalk. I guess her brother was good for something. He must have shoveled the walk and driveway that afternoon. Lee appreciated it. But he owed it to her, is more like it. His attitude toward her had softened a bit over the past month, but she still caught his wrath from time to time. Stepping into the crisp night air, Lee was focused. In addition to her usual blend of shades, hues, lashes and sultry gloss, tonight Lee was wearing her stone-cold, cartel assassin face. The face she put on that night was stoic, about 3 times the intensity of the typically emotionless RBF meme, which had become an often repeated joke across the landscape of social media. Given the circumstances and who she was having a drink with, Lee was in no mood to party. She wanted answers. If the truth was told, she wanted to extract some revenge, or justice, in the process. What happened that morning was not part of her plan. Was she angry? Yes. Slogging into the bone-chilling night air, to meet someone for dinner who she wanted to hate, but couldn't, was not what she had planned, especially today. Thursday was just 5 short days before Christmas. This was the first holiday season for the Stony Brook Bakery. She needed to hit it out of the park. Gift baskets needed to be created, assembled, wrapped and delivered. As Lee stared at her ride, she was remembering how well her day started. No, not because her brother had spent the night at his girlfriend's. That was a bonus. It was a productive day at the world headquarters of the Stony Brook Bakery. Their offices occupied the small kitchen in a 50s ranch-style house near the center of town. The last batch of Christmas goodies were in the oven. By her calculations, they would be coming out at exactly 10 a.m. Everything was ready to go on Lee's assembly line: monogrammed bags, labels, tags, neatly cut lengths of ribbon and baskets were carefully organized on the small rectangular breakfast table near the kitchen. The timer had a few minutes left. Lee decided to make a quick check of her email in case any new orders were in. But the phone buzzing in her pocket commanded her immediate attention. She glanced at the screen. It was Gary. Welcome. This short story is titled, The Invisible Hand of Fate. The Journey from Deception to Reconciliation. The author is Donovan Marcello. He is a freelance writer whose passion is capturing the real-life stories of real people. His style speaks from both the first-person narrative and the third-party observer. He captures the drama in the unfolding of events and circumstances throughout their journey. He observes the characters as they navigate life, relationships, triumphs and, of course, tragedies. He is a master at dissecting the interplay of the characters' personal struggles to hold on to their true self as they face their fears, insecurities and doubts which surface over the course of their life and in their relationship. The Invisible Hand of Fate picks up where Part 1, Unplayable Lies, ended. Lee and Donovan's relationship was fractured when Lee revealed she was involved in intimate relationships with 2 men which she had kept secret from Donovan. The deception is framed and drifts in and out of the story. Lee's journey to find the voice of her heart is guided by the unexpected, unforeseen circumstances, authored by the Invisible Hand of Fate. Finally, Lee finds the voice of her true self. The long-overdue reconciliation with Donovan happens. But the invisible hand continues to shape her journey. Along the way, Lee is challenged to hold on to the voice of her heart. The invisible hand of fate takes Lee on a most unexpected journey. In the final chapter, Lee finds herself alone. In her solitude, Lee's only ally and refuge is in her true self. As he did on the final page of Unplayable Lies, Donovan leaves both the reader and Lee hanging, but not without hope. He masterfully pens the last 3 words, "To be continued." Part 3, titled Chasing the Wind, Discovering to Love is to Live. The book is available in print or ebook version and can be ordered online from any major online book distributor. The audio version of the book has been edited to enhance your listening pleasure. The file format is MP3, each audio file is roughly 64 megabytes and total listening time is approximately 3 hours. We would appreciate your reviews and comments. You can leave your feedback by selecting the comment link in the main menu bar at the top of the page. I am Amy McIntyre. For more information about my services, you can find me online. Go to audiobyamy.com. I am also on social media. The author has provided several audio selections from the book. Enjoy. Donovan and Lee meet for the first time since their conversation back in September. 5 minutes ahead of Lee, Donovan parked his truck a few spots down from the restaurant. While taking care of the parking meter, he wondered, does Lee still like surprises? He smiled. He scanned the sidewalk and entrance to the restaurant. The sidewalk was clear of snow between the curb and the foyer. He noticed the shop next to Santerra's was closed. The entrance was about 10 feet deep and dark. It was perfect for a surprise. He was leaning against the wall of the darkened entryway to the shop when Lee's Uber came to a stop. The driver had positioned Lee's door so she would have to navigate only a few inches of snow to get to the sidewalk. She wouldn't be looking for Donovan crossing the snow in those heels. He laughed as she swung her legs out of the back door. She was still glancing down when she put her hand on the door of Santerra's. That was about the time Donovan slipped in behind her and put his hand softly over her eyes. "Lee, you still like surprises?" he whispered. Given the circumstances, the weather, and not to mention how things ended between the two, these 5 words were probably not the wisest selection Donovan could have offered in his greeting. Donovan. Wrong answer. She turned, only to find him uncomfortably close, as usual. Lee was clearly surprised. It was not the greeting she had been planning as she made her way to the restaurant just minutes earlier. Looking back on the last 2 years, it was safe to say, most of Lee's plans, like this one, didn't quite work out as she envisioned. "You look fabulous," he said. "Thank you," she said while attempting to keep her smile in check. "I debated about what to wear and this wasn't my first choice given the weather," she reflected. Lee's black leather pants were gloved tight against her svelte thighs. Her 4-inch heels formed a perfect mold of black leather around her toned, taut calves. Lee had resumed her once stagnant workout regime. Her long hair was cascading down the side of the black, flared, wool cape she was wearing. Black was the mood she wanted to set for the evening. It was perfect. "Would a booth be okay?" asked the young hostess. "Yes. That is unless my friend would like me to sit in the dumpster out back." Donovan grinned in Lee's direction. She had to smile. He was just as funny as always. The word restraint wasn't an often used action word for Donovan. Lee was unfazed and slid gracefully into her side of the booth. Donovan's other golf partner, Nikki, is introduced and the author begins to frame the backstory of their relationship. The last Thursday in October was just another sunny fall day in Colorado, which meant it was a perfect day for golf. He took off about 1 p.m. and headed to his favorite course. As he made a left into the parking lot, he spotted the last space close to the clubhouse. He wasn't really paying attention, but from the opposite end of the lot, there, a mom's SUV made the turn. Without any hesitation, Nikki certainly wasn't giving up the prime spot to the guy in the truck 25 yards away. Donovan watched as she cut into the spot he had lined up for himself. "Well, that was a damn bold move, buddy," he muttered. After landing a space about 2 rows back, he was kind of curious who got his spot. When he had passed the SUV, he glanced through the back window. Through what looked like a load of used flower boxes, was a woman with blonde hair. She's out early for a soccer mom. He was intrigued. Donovan didn't waste any time dallying with his clubs or cleaning his spikes, or finding a sleeve of balls, or figuring out which one of the 5 drivers he was going to hit that day. He was making his way to the aisle just about the time Nikki slung her bag over her shoulder and headed to the pro shop. "Hey," he asked a bit too loudly. "That was a heck of a slick move to get your boat docked so quickly. Are you in a hurry to get an 18? The sun doesn't set until 6:46 tonight, according to my app." He smiled. Nikki turned and before she could speak, he put out his hand. "I'm Donovan, and you are?" he queried. "Nikki Stanfield," she came straight out with her name. Nikki Stanfield was blonde, 5'5" and by Donovan's best estimate, weighed not a drop more than 119 pounds. She had bright blue eyes, a smile that was formed by a pair of the most sensuous, most kissable lips he had ever seen, or tasted. They were natural. He could tell she was not one to go for injections or any artificial enhancements. Her legs and arms were toned. Donovan wondered if she was working out, or just working. He noticed she had gorgeous hands. They were manicured but she had potting soil or something like it, on the back of both hands. "Excuse me Nikki, have you been gardening today?" he asked. Nikki busted out laughing. "Donovan, you are too funny. No. I own a flower shop and today is my golf day. If you don't hurry up, I will be teeing off without you," she said. He sped up his pace and they made their way to the carts and loaded their clubs. "You want to drive? You seem to be very comfortable being in charge," he said. She didn't move her clubs from the passenger side. Donovan would be driving. "Not sure if your invitation was to join your foursome or join you, but count me in." "What kind of game do you play?" he asked. "Oh, it's just me." "Well, now it's me and you." She smiled and winked. Nikki was gorgeous and Nikki could play golf. She could have played from the men's tees. She explained she had not played as much as she wanted over the summer because she had too much on her plate. By the end of the front 9, Donovan had learned her story. She was almost divorced, a 10-year-old boy and 13-year-old girl. She was the family provider. When they finished the round, Donovan invited her to join him for a drink. Lee's attempt to keep her world wrapped and boxed in separate containers fails again, in a most unlikely circumstance. Lee's mother and sister were on their way over and Donovan could not, under any circumstances, come to her house. He was a secret. No one knew about him. If he arrived and they started with questions, what would she do? Her mother and sister didn't knock. They walked in and asked what was left to do. Lee, fully composed, began to work through her list. "Those 4 baskets need to be tied and labeled. There are 12 boxes of cookies that need to be bagged, labeled and wrapped. I have 2 dozen loaves to finish, the first dozen has 3 minutes left in the oven." She was in control but only her world of baking. The trio had been busy for about 10 minutes when Donovan arrived. While Lee had never invited him into her house, when he pushed open the front door, she was, let's say pleasantly surprised. Her mother and sister looked up from the assembly line, their eyes fixed on the tall stranger who had just burst through the front door, unannounced. Lee was in total shock as well. However, Lee was as cool as the other side of a pillow. She knew what was at stake if the conversation went sideways, or even one wheel slipped off the road. Maybe 1 or 2 of the 3 women were about to speak, or maybe all 3 had words prepared for the stranger's entrance. Donovan had already made the calculations. He took control of the conversation before they spoke. "Hi. You must be Lauren, Lee's mother, and you are her trip sister, Carrie," he said as he approached with his hand to greet them. "I am so glad to finally meet you. Lee has spoken about you on the few occasions when we have played golf." He framed the conversation so they could reach one, and only one conclusion. But in his mastery of the chaos, he continued, to set the table for his unexpected entry. "Lee, it looks like you have plenty of help. You know what they say about too many cooks in the kitchen." He pulled out the perfect joke to bring laughs from Mom and Sis. And he was almost finished. "So, Lee, what do you need me for? You said I need you to help, but you have plenty of help I can see. Did you want me to slap a Stony Brook sign on my truck and cart you around making deliveries?" He joked. It was perfect. Whatever concern Lee had regarding Donovan being known by her family, it had evaporated in less than 5 minutes. And she didn't have to utter a word. In fact, Lee, standing in front of the open oven door, realized her backside was damn near on fire. "Oh, my goodness, the oven door is open," she proclaimed, fanning herself. "Well, sister, you have been standing there doing nothing while Mr. Donovan has been trying to get marching orders," Carrie said with a chuckle. Donovan played his role of the helpful, but not quite needed yet assistant to the head bakery chef. His small talk with Mom and Sis was like any conversation with Donovan. It was light and fun. There were jokes and stories. Her mother and sister did not miss the opportunity to slide in a few probing questions about Donovan and Lee, and Donovan meeting Lee, and Donovan, Lee and golf. He handled them with ease. Lee didn't speak much. She watched and listened in a nonchalant fashion from her duty station in the kitchen. She was smiling. She realized Donovan had probably walked into a potentially catastrophic, meet the mom, minefield like this before. Knowing him well, probably many times before. The mood was light as the trio, plus one, finished the last of the baking, assembling and packaging. Lee thanked her mother and sister for their help. Their help was greatly appreciated. Without it, Lee would not have met her delivery deadlines. When she needed them, they showed up. They offered to make some deliveries, but Lee was insistent. She and Donovan were going to handle the deliveries. Yes, going to handle the deliveries, because the conversation about the investigators had been going on in Lee's thoughts since they left her home. The two women put on their coats, much to Lee's surprise. Each gave Donovan a hug. He graciously accepted their warm gestures, and in Donovan's twisted humor, he winked at Lee as he embraced first her mother, then her sister. He politely held the door for them as they left. It was perfect. Thank you for listening. My name is Amy McIntyre. If you have a project and would like to investigate producing an audio version, I would enjoy the opportunity to work with you. You can find me online. Go to audio by amy.com. Enjoy your day.